This is LING 270, Language, Technology, and Society, Module 4, Printing. In this lesson, we'll talk about modern methods of printing. Now, since the development of the printing press in the 1400s, a lot of the technology actually didn't really develop very much, even for hundreds of years after it developed, which might suggest how innovative Gutenberg had been at the time and how successful of an invention that was at the time. But with the coming of the Industrial Revolution, the speed of printing increased much more quickly. We see this with the invention of what's called the rotary press, which I'll look at a little bit. And also, we'll see many advancements that were made in the 20th century, which further increased the speed of printing and also improved its quality, some of which are used in the printers that we use today. So there were several innovations that the Industrial Revolution made use of to increase the power and speed of printing. So one of which was the application of steam power to printing. So remember that previously the printing press was something that was hand operated. There would be a lever that a person actually pulls to apply the force in the printing process. But with the development of steam power in the Industrial Revolution, this kind of work could be done by steam instead. And another major advancement was the development of the rotary press. So this is a kind of invention where instead of having a flat set of letters onto which a paper is printed, a cylinder is used with an impression of a document that is rolled onto a sheet of paper. And with this invention, you can have that rotary press applied to a continuous stream of paper and just print one document after another over and over again. So this greatly increases the efficiency and the speed of the printing process. I have a video example to just show you how quickly a rotary press can actually works. So Friedrich Koenig is one of the inventors of a steam press, and with the application of steam power, we see that there's a big increase in the amount of impressions per hour that was possible. And this became applied in the industry where rapid printing was needed the most, namely in the newspaper industry. And the rotary press, Richard M. Hoe, an American inventor, was one of the first developers of the rotary press. It uses the cylindrical stamp that I've talked about, and it rolls on this continuous stream of paper, greatly increasing the speed of the printing process. And with the development of this rotary press, millions of pages could be printed in a day. So this would make it possible to make a very rapid publication, such as a newspaper, that could be printed for a very large number of customers as well. So, so we see just how quickly the process of printing could be completed. And to just give you an idea of how this actually works and how these rotary presses are actually made, I have a video example that shows how a press might have worked in the 1950s. And there are a lot of presses like these that are even still at work today. And this press like this could print about 60,000 newspapers per hour. And looking at the speed of how quickly this machine runs, it will this number will seem quite reasonable for that. And with in the 20th century, we also see some new methods developed to improve the quality and the speed of printing. So one of which was the technique of offset printing, first invented in 1875. And this was used for faster and higher quality printing. So this was done partially by the use of a rotary mechanism that makes the speed much quicker, and also the use of water repulsion, which increases the quality of the printing process. So one of the cylinders in this image is etched. So it has an image which is used to actually print the document or the picture that you want to reproduce. And this kind of image can be created with a kind of acid that eats into the metal or a kind of laser as well in more modern technology. Then the cylinder is coated with ink, and another cylinder is coated with water. So then the image will transfer onto the cylinder with water, but it won't stick to that cylinder because it's wet. There's a layer of water onto it, so that repels it right onto the paper. And this kind of printing is used especially for newspapers and especially higher quality documents such as brochures and books and things like that. Another more modern example of printing, which used a lot more electrical methods, is the process of inkjet printing. So this was something that was invented in the 1950s. And as the name suggests, it is a printer which uses jets that spray ink onto the page. And these jets are activated by a source of heat or electricity. Once this kind of electrical impulse is implied, a droplet of ink is forced very rapidly onto the page. It goes about 20 meters per second. And so what happens is usually a computer will apply a series of electrical pulses to this print head. And the print head will scan across the page as it prints. So in this way, it's able to trace out an image or the text of a document in a way that has been digitized. Yeah. And this kind of printer is advantageous because it can print anything that can be digitized. If you can take an image and convert it into a pattern of electrical impulses that can be sent to an inkjet that can then be printed. You don't need to do anything fancy with typesetting or molding, as I showed in the example of the last video. And the major benefit of inkjet printing is that it made the printing process much more compact, and it actually made a printer a resource that could be afforded by an average person. So this was the major advancement of inkjet printing. It made printing much more easily accessible, and many of the printers that we use today are inkjet printers. And another modern example of printing is the process of laser printing. So laser printing was invented in 1969, and the way this works is that there is a drum with static electricity on it with a bunch of negative charges. And then a laser will shine on this drum to trace out an image. And when the laser shines on this drum, it changes the electrical charge of the drum. So, but when the laser scans back and forth, it scans this kind of image. And so that means that it leaves a positive charge on the drum where the laser had shown. And these positive charges attract what are called toner particles. So these are little pieces of polyester plastic which have a particular kind of dye with them. So this dye will then be attracted up onto the drum, and that will form an image made of the toner particles. Then the toner is heated and melted onto the page to actually make it adhere to the page. So the key advantage of laser printing is that it is much faster compared to inkjet printing, and laser printing is also a kind of printer that can be afforded by the layperson. So these are the major modern advancements in printing. So yeah, so we see that the printing technology has actually come a long way, that now we actually have technologies which can be afforded by the average person. They don't have to be this gigantic machine like we saw in Gutenberg's printing press. So that's something to keep in mind as well.